Mariners fans had been on the edges of their seat for the past couple weeks as word had gotten out that Aaron Goldsmith, one of the Mariners' top play-by-play broadcasters,
this ball is on its way, crushed and gone. Second deck job, Julio. Haniger throttles this out to left field, and the Mariners are on the board.
had applied for the St. Louis Cardinals' lead role. Goldsmith, after all, grew up in St. Louis. But on January 23rd, it was announced that Goldsmith had withdrawn his name from consideration and he would be staying in Seattle.
I'm not leaving.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
The sponsor for today's video is myself. I just got my logo redone and we have some merch with that on it. I'll put a link in the description below to my shop. We've got hats, t-shirts, you name it. So go check it out and I appreciate your support in advance. Now back to Aaron Goldsmith. Why did he pick Seattle over St. Louis? Seattle Times columnist Larry Stone had an interview with Aaron Goldsmith, after which he wrote an article about why Goldsmith picked Seattle. Goldsmith first joined the Mariners back in 2013, now going on 10 years with the team, at which point in time he joined Rick Rizzs in calling the Mariners broadcast. And he had spent the prior 6 years calling minor league games. After the 2022 season, Aaron Goldsmith's contract with the Mariners had expired, and even though he negotiated a new deal with the Mariners, it had not yet been signed. And in this new deal with the Mariners, Goldsmith committed to only calling Mariners games, giving up his national broadcasting duties with Fox Sports. And Goldsmith was actually in Atlanta calling a Mets-Braves game for Fox when Cal Raleigh hit that playoff-clinching home run in Seattle.
Cerveno, a drive deep to right field, down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs.
During this offseason and in the negotiations with the Mariners, Goldsmith felt that now was the time for him to pivot and become more of a single-focused broadcaster, and he felt as though he's a better Mariners broadcaster than any other kind of broadcaster. After all, this job with the Cardinals opened unexpectedly after longtime Cardinals play-by-play man Dan McLaughlin resigned on December 15th after a suspicion of driving while intoxicated for the third time. So when the position opened and with the permission of the Mariners, Goldsmith put his name into the hat and he began the interview process with the Cardinals. The headline stated that Goldsmith was the front runner for the Cardinals position, and with just one interview remaining this last Monday, Goldsmith then took his name out of the hat after Goldsmith and his wife had an epiphany that they need to stay in Seattle. Here's some of the conversation between Aaron Goldsmith and Brock Heward on Seattle Sports 710 this past week.
It was a very emotional week. We had a lot of heart to hearts in the Goldsmith family, and we had to use some like code words when the kids were around. You know, like STL. And fortunately, you know, kids are smart, but they're not advanced at this point. And so, yeah, it was, in all sincerity, in all honesty, though, it was an overall life process and thought process like I've never had to go through before, and I hope and I trust I'll never go through that again. I make it sound like it was this awful thing. Yeah. It was incredibly revealing. I think we all know, not to get too serious about things, but we all know in life sometimes you have to really think about what you would be without to realize how much you love something. And I knew, and my wife Heather knew how much this place means to us. Mm-hmm. But when you start really thinking about what it's like to not have it anymore, it shines an even brighter light on how special it is and how grateful we are. And it was even with that clarity, it remained a very difficult conversation, a very difficult phone call to make. Mm-hmm. But I knew in my heart that it was the right one to make, which gave me great conviction.
Gosh, I mean, it was, Aaron, in a beautiful way. It was everywhere. It was on social media. You felt the fans and the connection you have with them. Why do you think the outpouring and just that sense of that love that you felt from so many of the Seattle fans, why do you think that came to life so much through this process?
Well, you're right, Brock. I mean, it was like nothing that I ever thought would happen. I know I've said this before, but for people who haven't heard me say it, I didn't think anything would be known by anyone at any point until the very end. And even at the very end, if I decided that that wasn't the right fit for me or they didn't want me, I thought that no one would ever be the wiser that I was even in the mix for it. So with that as my expectation, to have it turn out the way that it did in terms of the public knowledge and then a step further, the public outpour, I mean, it was like I couldn't even process it many times. I think we both can relate to this, especially for on the local level in the show that you do here. You hope that you become part of people's lives. And it's a strange dynamic. It's a really kind of a beautiful dynamic. You hope you become part of people's lives, and you hope that people feel like they know you, even though the vast majority of those people you will never meet face to face. And it's a very difficult thing to do. It does not come easily. It does not come quickly. But I've been here for 10 years, and I've been on the air a lot for 6 months for 10 years. And you don't always know. There's not really a great way to get feedback as to how well you're doing at that part of the job until you do this.
Until you put it all out there.
And so I think I've tried really hard over the course of my time with the Mariners. And truthfully, like at the beginning, I was so nervous, and I was just playing not to get fired. I was playing not to lose early in my career because I didn't have a great grasp of what I was doing all the time, and I was uncomfortable.
How many years did you toil in the minors? How many years did you?
I did 6 years in the minors.
You did 6 years in the minor leagues, kind of working working up from lower level. Is it kind of like a major league player?
I mean, I did indie ball. I did the Cape League, which is below indie ball. It's collegiate amateur ball. I wasn't even paid. Nobody was paid. Everybody was a volunteer. I mean, I was an intern for 3 years. I almost got out of the business if I didn't get a full-time job. My 4th year, I was going to propose to Heather, and I was going to go be an appliance salesman. So, I mean, I really didn't have a whole lot of innings under my belt by the time I got the Mariners job. It was the ultimate upset that I got the Mariners job to begin with. And so it took me time. It took me time with the Mariners to kind of get some confidence and get rolling. And I can't pinpoint exactly when that happened, but I do know that there was a time where I felt like, hey, I'm comfortable. Like I have confidence, and this feels great. Like this is exactly what you dream of. And I've always tried to be vulnerable and tried to be myself and be self-deprecating. And I hope I'm attracted to that in someone, and I hope that the majority of our fan base and our listeners find that attractive as well and relatable. And so I think all of that, it's a slow burn, it's a slow build, but over the course of a decade, obviously it's made an impact, which it makes me very, very emotional to think about, because it's what everybody wants to have the big call, right? Everybody wants to call the championship and be a part of big games. But ultimately, if you choose to do local baseball, which is my passion, if that's your path, you want to feel like you are a part of things. And I mean, as simple as it sounds, Brock, man, you want to be liked. Like it's a hard job to do if you're not liked. Yeah. And to be a part of people's lives and to be in their living room and to be in their car every day with them for 6 months out of the year, they have to like you being a part of what they love, and that's the Mariners. And I'm so glad that by and large has happened.
Well, it's pretty cool. In back-to-back days, we had Kevin Burkhardt on yesterday, and he was a totally self-made man. He was selling cars. He was working odd jobs. He ultimately got a break with the Mets as a sideline kind of analyst, and then he has just worked and worked and worked and worked. And you just heard from Aaron Goldsmith right there, multiple years of not being paid as an intern, as a volunteer. I mean, the path to these opportunities, I know for some it feels like they get handed to them, and there are some in the business that it certainly is, and that path is much, much easier for a lot of them, including the guy calling the Super Bowl in a couple weeks. He was self-made, and for Aaron Goldsmith, you were as well. So let's just cut to the chase, though. I mean, this is a question I think everybody's been wanting answered. Is it just because the Mariners are so good? I mean, is it because they've made the playoffs? Is it because the drought ended last year that in the end the decision was pretty darn easy for you and Heather? Like, I mean, really? Am I going to leave Julio? Am I going to leave? Am I going to leave this Mariners franchise after 9 years of walking through the desert? Yeah, the manna fallen from heaven, right? And am I really? Is it now? Right after we get through all of that and we're on the other side and we're a playoff contender with a roster that is built to sustain and win for quite some time, you weren't going to leave this situation, Goldie.
Well, I will. My mind goes a lot of directions when you talk about all that. First of all, I have 3 children. My oldest is 8 years old, and he is the kid president of Club Julio. And
he's not just that. He is the club baseball guy.
He's
a savant.
Like
for those that don't know, he's put lineups together, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, backyard. He draws lineups up, and then when we reenact them, and he calls play-by-play of it. And so, I mean, like he's all Mariners all the time, and the idea of telling him that would no longer be a part of his everyday life would have. I mean, oh my God, it would have crushed me. It would have broken me. That would have been really, really difficult to do. But to getting back to like kind of the serious part of your question, when somebody considers a major life change, like everyone listening has at some point, it's a scale, right? There are things that you consider. There's a wide variety of things you consider, and there's a scale for how much weight they pull in your decision. Mm-hmm. And I would be lying to say that like Julio wasn't a part of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like where the Mariners are right now wasn't a part of that. Like where they ranked on the scale, I can't even quite pinpoint, but I feel like not just me, but for Dave and for Rick and for Blow and for Gary and for Shannon, like we're all in this really special time. Yep. Not only for the Mariners, but you look at what Griffey did for this town and for baseball. And I would never ever want to say that Julio is going to be Griffey 2.0, but I think we can all see clearly enough that there are similarities there. And it's only been a year, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I think we do know that this is a special, special young man and what he can do for this city and potentially for this game. Who knows? The bottom line, we can't put a limit on him, and to be in a position where if I choose to be and I don't mess things up, I will have the opportunity and the pleasure to call his career. That doesn't guys can work for 20 plus seasons and not have something like that. So that was a part of it, man, for sure.
Speaking for most Mariner fans, I am pumped that Aaron Goldsmith is sticking around with the Mariners, and we very well might see him be the lead broadcaster for the games moving forward. And with him saying that it would be an honor to call Julio Rodriguez's career, and with Julio going to be here potentially 17 plus years, hey, maybe Goldsmith sticks around that entire time as well. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, give it a share, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys, goodbye, Sunday. Don't forget it.
Stop it.